Hi, everybody, and welcome to episode 57 of the Lunch Bunch. And we're going to try to be very clear today so that you don't misinterpret anything that we have to say. Because today we're going to be talking about the challenges of online communication and how easy it is to miscommunicate, get our messages screwed up. Maybe someone take it the wrong way. What can we do? I mean, there's all kinds of reasons why texting online is just rife with misunderstandings because, first of all, we can't see people. We don't know, and we can't hear them. We can't hear the tone of their voice, so it's just the text. And unless they're Hemingway, unless they're a great author, sometimes people aren't very eloquent when they're in a rush and they want to tap something off quickly to comment on something. So anyway, we're going to be talking about that, and we're going to be having a lunchbox where everybody's going to bring their contribution to the table, and we'll leave off with a doggy bag, but we'll leave you a tip to take home with you. So let's get started, and let's say hi to the lunch bunch. Jess, say hi. How you doing, Jess?
Hello.
You look great. The lady in red today.
I'm going to remember that. You might see this more often.
And that was a great hangout, by the way, you and Scott did last week. I catch it so late, like 2 or 3 days afterwards, but I catch it, and I love your show.
Thank you.
Randy, good to see you again, as usual.
Nice
how's
to be
it
here.
going down south?
Nice to be here. It's very cold today and windy. Jessica, that you would fit in very well in my neighborhood because red and black are the dominant college football team of the state, so that's the most popular color worn on most women and men, so that's
wow. Really? That's interesting.
Yeah. even at the local university here, Georgia Southern, I mean, you see it's a dominant color in the states.
Wow. Scotty, how's it going?
Oh, it's terrific, and it's beautifully overcast and cloudy today in Seattle, so I couldn't be happier.
I love that way. Only Seattle. How do you say? What's a Seattletonian? What's a guy from Seattle called?
A Seattleite?
It sounds like something you want to get off your thigh.
I like that. I like that one.
I'm sorry, doctor. What can I do for my Seattleite?
That's why we've got the Space Needle.
Oh, sorry, everybody.
Anyway, it's sunny and it's very cold. It's very cold here, Scotty. It's minus whatever 3 degrees and like 90-kilometer-hour winds. So yeah, not nice. But London, I'm sure, is much better, right, Vivek?
Yeah, it is overcast today, so as we tend to say, and it's not raining for a change, but
is it cold?
It is cold, yes.
Okay, good. So we're all in good company.
Yeah, no Australians here yet, so. Okay,
so let's talk. I'll just give you a couple of reasons why I think it's so difficult to communicate online, and then we're going to open up and maybe get some examples or some things that we do to try to be as clear as possible, maybe some tips that we can use in writing things. And of course, there's different types of text online. There's tweets, which is 140 characters, so you don't have much time to say what you want to say. Google Plus, sometimes there's a long post, but I remember seeing on Google Plus many times in the comments where someone takes something the wrong way and goes a completely different direction with it. So it depends on the kind of text you're doing. So reasons why it's the challenge to express ourselves online. First of all, of course, we can't see, as I said before, we can't see the person's face and we can't hear their tone. So we're just going by the text. Secondly, sometimes you feel pressure to respond quickly, whether either it's through you're pissed off or because you think the other person's expecting an answer right away, so you tend to rush things and get careless. And then, of course, the other thing is that the connections we make online, even though they feel like friends and we call them friends, sometimes aren't real friends. They don't have a history with you. They don't know you that well. So when you say something, they don't know the personal context as well. So sometimes if something goes wrong, it's easy to break that friendship because it's very weak to begin with. So those are all kinds of things that sort of go into that blender of why sometimes we screw up online. So I'm going to open it up, and I'm going to open it up by asking Randy. I'm going to put him on the spot. Randy.
Well, I think your introduction and then your summary right there, you just hit some salient points there. Tone, inflection. You mentioned something about Hemingway. Well, you know, there's always been written word, and after that author might have died, or it has been analyzed over and over again. Some of the classics are still analyzed, and what does that mean? I mean, it's very difficult with the written word sometimes to get into somebody's mind. So that said, inside of the social space, where today we talk or type or message in cryptic ways, it is very easy to be misconstrued. It's very easy to make a misstep. Autocorrect can sometimes come in there, and if you don't catch it, like you said, if the receiver, and depending on their mode, depending on their mood, or depending on their interaction with you, because you made a good point. A lot of your friends today, you've never actually sat across a coffee table and looked in their face. So it's just it's an avatar. So they could take it the wrong way. It is something that if you haven't been burned by it, you will get burned by it. How you react can cause something that could be fairly insignificant to boil over into something else. So I've always tried to approach things with humor. I do delve into politics sometimes in my personal space, but that is a very touchy subject, and one that will ignite people in a heartbeat. Various things that are going on in our countries, and around the world. There's so much people approach news items and events today with such passion, and they express it online. And you can usually tell those people that are, I would almost put them in the activist category. And if you're going to engage with them, you can expect some strong feelings to come back with that. So you need to be cautious and think before you hit that enter key that you send that message. Make sure you reread it. I'm very guilty of hitting the button too quick and going, oh crap, I got to go. Hope I can edit that real quick before somebody reads it or something like that.
You send an email going, oh no, don't send.
I used to love the old way where I could bring emails back. You had a function. Now I can't. I might still be able to do that. I just have not figured it out. But I used to, in our old world, we used to could send one and go, shoot, I had like 3 minutes to get it back. And that was great.
Two things, Randy. One is I'm told that at least if you've got Gmail, there's an add-on that you can have that it'll delay sending any email that you hit send on by any amount of time that you want.
Wow. Yeah,
That's cool.
Yeah, called a cool-off time.
Yeah,
it's a 3-day waiting period.
Cool off. You talked about
That's
Hemingway.
a good idea.
It was Hemingway.
That's a good. Go ahead, Scott.
Okay, it was Hemingway. This is too good to pass up, and it's appropriate for this time in the program. Hemingway said, "Write drunk, edit sober."
And I practice that often. No, I just throw that out there.
So when doing text, that means that you need to have a sip of brandy when you type your text, and then have a sip of coffee before you hit send. Is that?
Now I get it. I had it backwards. I was having a scotch while I was editing. I thought the hard part was. Oh, okay.
That's awesome.
Jess.
I find this really interesting because there are times when I respond to something and then I get worried because I'm like, man, I think I just took a left turn or ended up in the wrong field, or I might not even be in the right state, which has happened to me before in real life. So I think about some of that stuff and I'm like, if we can embrace it a little bit and give ourselves a little bit of permission, when that misunderstanding happens, that's okay. The other thing is when we write short, we can put 2 or 3 things that we say that we really believe in next to each other, and they sound contradictory. So in a world where we can look like we can contradict ourselves because of the titles that we write or the things that we say in a short form, but you're missing that big picture when you're diving in deep and you are able to have a longer relationship with somebody, you're like, oh, well, that's how that fits in, or oh, how funny, because if I didn't know her, I would really react poorly to that. And I think that there's a lot to be said for that, because we can come across as contradictory and not mean it, and actually not be contradictory in our larger scope, but in the moment.
One of the things that's kind of has risen in popularity that I've noticed in the social space is sarcasm.
Yeah.
People like to brag about being sarcastic. They put it in their bios and they use it a lot. And if you're not used to that, you can really get sideways with it real quick. And going back to something that I said a while ago, and Deborah mentioned this in the comments, that there is a mob mentality on the internet. I mean, people are just waiting for something to, and maybe it's an idea that bad news is an opportunity to get in on the viral thing that's fixing to happen, or something like that. So, I would just, if you have, like I said earlier, if you haven't stepped in it before, you will, unless you take steps or veer away from any kind of inflammatory thing that you're going to see that's going to explode. And you never really know. I mean, I think we were talking in the green room, and we could probably all share incidents where we've contacted somebody or communicated with somebody online, and that thing just got sideways, and it should have never got that way, to the point where the relationship ended.
Yeah.
And you can't. It's like, well, hey, is it worth going back and trying to connect? And that's somebody that maybe it's an online friend, you've never met them in life. Is it somebody worth going back and chasing? We do tend to treat our online friends just like our neighbors, and we feel passionate about them and caring, and we don't want that to happen. But it's very easy to break one in this digital space. I would say in that we all have communities, and communities watch stuff like that happen. So they see it or they talk about it. There's ways that something could be going on about yourself that you're not aware of.
I think you're very right. Sorry, Randy. That sarcasm is a big issue, and I often see hashtag sarcasm after a comment or something, because it doesn't read. You can't read sarcasm very well unless you go into some length. And I wish I could remember the name of the author who said, "Pardon the length of this letter, but I didn't have time to write a short one." And what he's saying is very true, isn't it? I mean, we all know it's difficult to keep things short and succinct. So when we're writing stuff and we have either the pressure of time or the pressure of feeling that we have to respond to something, sometimes we can get a bit sloppy and not choose the words correctly, or put ourselves in the head of the person who's going to read this. Be aware who's going to be on the other side.
Even a simple emoji now, using a symbol can, I mean, you could mistakenly pick something that could you're innocently and thinking about it, but it offends somebody, because there's all kind of symbols and things out there and acronyms and things like that.
Oh, don't get me started about
I might
acronyms.
use something, but Vivek might mean something totally different to Vivek and his culture.
I think that's a really good point, Randy. I was going to mention to Vivek as well about, for instance, some smiley faces, and sometimes I think we kind of lean on that too much. I think I do. But some of those symbols may have a different cultural reading, than we think they are, and so we're not sure exactly how they're going to be read. Vivek? Oh,
Yeah, tell me.
Yeah, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
For instance, I mean, you see emoticons and stuff, obviously, like the rest of us do. Are you aware of any cultural differences, like would a smiley face or a sarcastic face with the arched brow or whatever have a different reading, say, for Hindus or for your culture, or?
I don't really know, in the sense. I can't answer that question as a Hindu as such, because Hinduism is such a liberal religion. So.
Okay. Okay, I just thought maybe you came across something and maybe questioned it or thought that's kind of weird to put at the end of a sentence or something. But I know, I mean, reading it in just terms of even smiling personally, I know that different cultures look at that as being really stupid. You know, some guys walking around smiling all the time is looked at something as idiotic, and I can't remember exactly what cultures that were, but it was you know. Anyway, so yes, Scott.
And, you know, it's not only cultures, you know, across the globe. It's also a generational or age thing. And
oh yeah.
In prepping for today's show, I went online to see what some of the things that kids might be using nowadays when they're texting, and this is a little different from emoticons, is that how you call it? But there are symbols. For example, if you type in 9, that means parent watching. 99 means parent not watching. This is when they're texting to each other. NP, noisy parents. My favorite is KIPPERS, kids in parents' pockets, eroding retirement savings.
That's good. That's really, really good.
How many? Oh my lord! Some of those acronyms.
You're going to share that link,
Yeah.
Scotty. I need that.
I'd be happy to.
Okay.
How many times have you looked up who Googled an acronym?
I do it all the time. Yeah.
All the time.
Because we've become an acronym. I mean, that's it. I remember back, you know, in corporate life, you'd come out with a new program and have an acronym. You had to come up with a title that were a nice acronym. But now everything is an acronym.
I love TLAs, 3-letter acronyms.
Oh my, Scott.
An acronym for an acronym. So, okay. Okay. Anyway, so Jess, anything to add before we move on?
Well, I wanted to go back to the comment about the actual destruction of a relationship, because that has happened to me before, and it was something that I didn't even know was happening until it was over. And so, talk about misunderstanding. This is somebody I knew online. We traveled together. We stayed at each other's homes, and something happened in our community online, and I took a stance, and she took a stance, and they were different stances. And in the end, it turned out both views were not completely accepting of each other's views, and by the time everything was over, there is no relationship, and 15 years later, there still is no relationship, and it's a really sad thing. But I look at it and I go, you know, how many cool memories we could have had? Sure. Is that sad? Sure. But apparently our relationship was supposed to be a short one. I was supposed to learn something from that misunderstanding and from that situation to be able to go forward and meet different people and new people and expand my world just a little bit more. So when I look at something like that, when it sucks in the middle of it, I mean, I might reply to something on my phone. I can't edit anything on my phone that I can figure out. I can't go edit a text. I can't go edit a tweet. I can't edit a Google Plus post. So if I'm not anywhere near my computer, there's something sitting out there that I'm like, oh, this is wrong in my heart, but it's got to be out there until I can go edit it. And it's hard when we second guess ourselves like that, because if we're second guessing ourselves, I think we open ourselves up for more misinterpretation by others, because we're not sure of what we're saying, when we're saying it, and how we're saying it. And I think if we're strong in ourselves, other people can meet us in that place. But if we have doubt, somehow that doubt is coming through, and other people are going, I'm not quite sure what they mean. Let me try. Or, oh.
So Jessica is a glass half full, not half empty, because she looks at the bad situation as a learning opportunity and builds upon it, which is an excellent way to do it.
I'm going to bring up a comment from Missy J. Do you think some people may have a problem with the composition of grammar in terms of writing compared speaking language? Well, I mean, that could be obvious, like, you know, let's eat grandma, or let's eat, comma, grandma. You know, that kind of thing. That would cause a misinterpretation for sure. And I wonder, you know, it's possibly that this topic or the subject of that commentary could be totally skewered by that simple grammar.
Well, and what about slang? Not even grammar. What about slang, right? I mean, I might use slang in a certain way that means something to my community, but somebody outside that community, if I were writing it to share to the world, I would actually write a little bit more along the lines of the written style that is still traditional that you would find in a book or a publication, compared to how I might talk to you and then try and do that, you know, if that makes sense.
Well, there is the grammar police that reside inside of the social media marketing world, content creators out there, that if you if you don't, like I mentioned earlier in autocorrect, if you make a mistake or your example, Ray, the comma, missing the comma or something, that will eat your lunch as soon as you do that, which I tend to detest a little bit. I don't flare about it some, but some people are quick to jump on you about some simple thing, and if there again, I know Ray and I go, oh, he just left the comma out. Other people, I know what he's saying. Other people read too much into little quick snippets that you're trying to. And I'm one of those. And I said earlier, I hit the button too quick, but I'm trying to respond quickly. I hate today. If I send a message out today, and somebody does not respond to it in a few hours, I'm like, something's wrong, because everybody's got a phone, everybody's connected, everybody, especially people I talk to. So if you're not answering me back in a little, it's like you didn't, either you're sending me to your junk file or you really don't give a shit about me, one or the other. So, I take it that way. Because I think that's what, unless you're my parents who are in that demographic, older demographic like that, they're not. But people my age or below, we're all connected.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I gotta learn Scottys symbols though, because I've been getting some stuff that I couldn't figure out, and I think I might be onto it now.
Code book. Vivek, I'm sorry, you were going to say something a bit ago.
Yeah, I was saying you were actually asking me about the cultural differences. It's as a lot of Indians, their mother tongue is not English. They learn English as I learned English as my fourth language, so I still have difficulty understanding some phrases and so on. But grammar does affect a lot of Indians, if you like. So.
Of course, that would make sense too, especially with someone who's struggling or just learning a language, right? Because you take it very literally. So when someone who's not as used to the context of it, that would be very difficult. We're going to have to move on to the lunchbox soon. Anybody want to add one last thing about the subject?
I think Phil Bauer just said he said something about politically correct. There is that in the culture today too. That some people just take things that I grew up with and things that are comments and things like that are just not really acceptable, and I just say something about referring to women and as gals or something. You can't do stuff like that anymore, and people take it the wrong way, even if you're kidding or something like that.
There's lots of police out there who's self-appointed police out there. There's PC police, grammar police, spelling police, political police. If that's what they need to get them through the day,
jumping in if somebody might need help handling a troll. That's one of the things, and that goes back to a show that we had recently. Was in some of that effort to jump in, it also could be a misunderstanding, because somebody might go, oh man, somebody's starting to attack Ray, so I've got to get in there and show my support and show him he's got a posse, watch out for us, kind of thing. And I think that can come from that a little bit too. Say what you want to say.
Cool. As Phil said, it's a rather long hashtag there. Say what you mean, Dan.
I like it, Bill.
Okay, like lunchbox time. Who wants to open up? I think I have on my list. I think I had Jess coming first on the lunchbox.
Sure. Okay. So I have got a post from Gina Fidel, I believe is how you say her last name, from July of this year, and she wrote this great post about how communication can be delicate, and she shared a story in the video that she added to her blog post about a bird, and it's a really sweet, awesome story about how we're trying something and it doesn't work, and we keep trying something and it doesn't work, and finally we get the spark and we know we're supposed to do something different, but we can't figure it out. So she picked up her phone and sent a text and found another solution, and actually was able to connect and help this little bird that she encountered in the way that she wanted to help the bird. And so multicultural, multi-community, if we don't really know somebody very well, how cool is it that we can control a lot of the reaction by how we show up in what we say, short or long, is what I took away from her post.
Very good. Thank you very much. Randy? You're next.
I've got an opinion piece to share. Again, I've had a relationship online with Jeff Livingston and his blog for a very long time, and he's morphed a few times or another, and he's going through another revelation in his life. But he wrote a recent post, if I could start social over again, what would he do? And it's about keeping his business life outside of the social space, separate the person from the business. And last week, I think it was last week I shared about the commentary about personal branding and how that's come back to in the discussions lately. And this kind of has something to do with that. And his post is, and this goes into, I've seen a lot of angst lately and a lot of content generated about Facebook and the decline of reach, and is it worth the investment? And pretty much everybody from the A-listers down to the Z-listers, unless you're just selling Facebook, have pretty much said that it's not really worth the bang any longer. I mean, it's just too crowded, too expensive. You can't get your voice out there. Maybe you need to seek a niche network or something like that to work that. And that's what Jeff is saying. I mean, his passion and everything is turned to photography, and he's kind of morphed his personal side into sharing pictures. He gets a hell of a lot more engagement than he ever did with printing something about marketing content or something like that. And I share that with him, but I'll share the post. Like I said, it's an opinion piece, but it's kind of topical today with what's going on around in some of these social spaces.
Thanks very much. Like Jeff, very much. Scotty.
Thank you. Interesting, Randy. Well, mine is sharing a post from David Amerlin, and it's titled Identity and Reputation in the Semantic Web, Verifying Your Identity is Key. And what he did is, evidently this was leaked from or through Google or something. It's the algorithmically determined trust score that they have. So there are 12 different things that Google is able to identify from your online activities, and I'll post it. But I'll just read one of them. It's your comment graph. And when I read this, I was reminded of the Unabomber. The Unabomber in the United States was captured because he wrote his manifesto, and his style of writing gave him away. They were able to. So this sounds an awful lot like that. Sentiment expressed in our comments, writing styles and comment styles, as well as more granular signals like the time of day we engage or reply, who we choose to engage with or reply to, the subjective matter that gets us going. The length of our replies and further responses they generate can become part of a very unique signature that expresses us. So if Google wants to know if I'm making things up or if I'm the true me, they've got my comment graph.
Very good. So it goes much beyond the words and into the context and style of how you put those words together.
Yeah.
Really good.
And plus 11 other things. I'll post it.
Okay. I remember that post. Vivek, I can't remember if you had something for the box, but did you want to move ahead to the tip portion?
Yeah, go on. I don't have anything.
Okay.
I posted something. Yeah.
Scotty, let's just go backwards then. Let's get your doggy bag tip.
Okay, so my doggy bag, and I'll briefly go here. It is the extreme symbol gallery. So what you can do is when you post things, here are all of the symbols that you can have. They're commonly used in alphabets, and so there are a lot of things that you can do when you're posting something like on Google than just have the emoticons. So I'll go ahead and post that in.
Okay, I don't know if it's just me, Scott, but when I see a string of those in a comment or a tweet, I go crazy.
I do too, but I love it if used judiciously. It's sort of like spice, right? So if I use there's a symbol for a musical note symbol.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
if I have a musical note, happy birthday musical note. Maybe that would work.
That's very cute. Sometimes I feel when we do that, we're like sort of 5-year-old girl, like grade 5 girls putting little stickies everywhere on
You have to
notes.
be 5 to do that?
What? Oh, I'm sorry, Jess. That wasn't what I meant, not at all.
Okay. See, right there.
Miscommunications can be verbal as well.
Let's move over. Let's move over to Randy now. Okay, Randy, what's your tip? Randy?
I was fairly hungry today, so I didn't have many scraps left for the doggy bag. So this is a tip again. If you're cold, they're cold. So make sure you bring your pets in. All of us are experiencing extreme cold weather the next few days. So remember your pets, and if you got any strays around there, take care of those too.
That's a great tip, Randy.
Yes.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be marketing and stuff. That's very good, and especially since we're all kind of sharing cold at this week anyway. Jessica, do you have another tip to warm us up?
Well, I don't know if it'll warm you up, but it might get people revved up a little bit. There is a website called newconversations.net, and it's a cooperative for improving communication skills for success both at home and at work. And the idea being, if people want to learn about it and they don't know where to start, this is a great free resource and a neat online community that I discovered. It came across my desk in the last week, so very cool.
Very good. Well, thanks very much. And my tip, actually, I'm going to try to screen share it here. It's what we talked about earlier, actually. It's the Hemingway app. And as you see, it's very simple. This is a free version. There's also one that you pay for, which gives you more editing functions. But you can just insert your text into here, and it'll give you basically color coded whether it's your sentence too long or whether you're using adverbs or that kind of stuff. And I actually, even though you read my stuff and maybe you're surprised to hear this, but I actually do use this, and it's been very helpful, especially if you're writing things that are for general audiences that aren't very specific, because I do sometimes have a habit of running on and overusing adverbs, and it's kind of a nice check for that. So it's a Hemingway app, and I'll put the link in the comments. So thank you everybody for showing up today. This has really been a very interesting discussion. I'm sure we could go on and on and on about it, and I want to thank everybody that showed up in the comment stream. Hi to Mia, I saw you there, and Phil, and William, and Kristen. I feel like, what's her name on Miss Romper Room, with the little glass. So Romper, Stomper, Domper, Do. Okay, so anybody, we'll see you next week, and have a great week in between. Bye-bye.